Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you had a great weekend, and thank you for joining us once again here at the Aura News broadcast. It is time now for our daily English news edition, and as usual, I'm Daniel Cook, your host. About 58 million lek, or 10% of the total public investments for next year, will be used for renovating government buildings and buying office furniture. The detailed tables of the budget show that nearly all the important ministries will benefit, among them the Presidency, the Parliament, and the Prime Minister's office. Out of 59.2 billion lek, which is the total budget that has been set aside for public investments, about 5.9 billion will be used to facilitate the work of the administration. The President will receive 15 million lek for refinishing his office and for purchasing new furniture and computers. The Assembly will receive 34.7 million lek for the reconstruction of the archives and restrooms, for improving the telephone system, and for purchasing new office equipment. The Prime Minister's office will receive a fund of 60 million for a new security system and electronic equipment. Several other ministries will also benefit, receiving millions to renovate their buildings. The Ministry of Urban Development will get 100 million lek, the Ministry of Education 58 million, 75 million for the Foreign Ministry, 10 million for the Ministry of Social Welfare, and 15 million for the Ministry of Environment. In short, millions of lek designated for public investments will be used for the modernization of government offices, an extravagant luxury for such a small budget as the one of the Albanian state, which has frozen salaries and pensions of lesser employees for 3 years. Representatives of foreign and domestic businesses gave a report today at the Economic Commission regarding the 2016 fiscal package. The chairman of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry urged the government to be careful with its calculation of contributions for free professions. The chairman of the American Chamber of Commerce, Mark Crawford, asked for more transparency concerning the removal of small business taxes, as there may be room for irregularities. Representatives of the domestic beer companies asked for a review of the increase in excise tax, and representatives of the tourism industry said that their sector is a catastrophe, even though the government promised to remove the VAT. The increase of taxes for social insurance was rejected by the stakeholders in the Commission. They asked for a review of the decision because, according to them, this will stop the voluntary payment of insurance. Representatives of the manufacturing industry raised their concerns about the high cost of maintaining their buildings. Representatives of the bread production industry asked for a reduction of the VAT on flour. Also present at the Commission, representatives of the Association for Public Transport asked for more investments in infrastructure. The chairman of the Economic Commission announced that business associations will be invited to the Commission every 3 months to report on their problems and needs. On the 25th anniversary of the Students of December movement, the ambassador of the European Union, Romana Vlahutin, said that Albania needs to show great determination in order to fulfill this dream. The EU ambassador sees the justice reform as the best opportunity Albania has to realize the dream of the students 25 years ago. She made the following statements today at a consultative meeting on the justice reform. 25 years ago, the students declared that we want an Albania that is like Europe. This is the essence of the reform, to make Albania like Europe. Now is the time to finish what the students began 25 years ago. The process is not over yet. After 25 years, Albania is still at a crossroad. The solution is simple. Albania needs a functioning democracy, said the EU ambassador. There is a threat from those who do not want this reform. They deliver false information with the aim of spreading panic among the public. I heard a rumor that one of the Euralysis reps has supposedly announced that 400 prosecutors and judges will be removed. This statement was never made. I was present at that meeting, and the Euralysis rep stated the opposite. The reform is not against the prosecutors and judges. It is for those who do their work with integrity, said Vlahutin. An international expert from the Euralysis mission, Agnes Bernard, said that the Venice Commission will gather by the end of next week to adopt their opinion on Albania's justice reform. This will be only a preliminary opinion, as a complete review will be made in February of 2016. President Bujar Nishani held a meeting today for students and deans of universities on the 25th anniversary of the fall of communism. president said that the same desire for an Albania that is like Europe still exists 25 years after communism fell. He made the following speech: "The call of 'we want an Albania like Europe' is still strong today. We should all reflect on this call, every one of us, because this is the new generation. There are ideals that can bring hope to the nation. We are aware that Albania has made progress, but there is still much to be done. Let me confess to you that sometimes I am not pleased when I see young men who are indifferent. But what really upsets me is when I hear the youth saying that they feel hopeless here. If the youth have no hope for Albania, this is a serious threat to our country," said President Nishani. He appealed for an investigation of crimes from the time of communism, the executions without trials, in order to set justice in place. He went on, "Cases in which people have been executed for choosing to live freely must be investigated. There are thousands of young men who were executed, and this happened right here in Albania," said Nishani. The president called the politicians to refrain from nihilism and to face the country's great challenges. The president of Kosovo, Atefete Yahyaga, held a meeting today with the leaders of the Kosovo opposition. In addition to their demand to repeal the agreements with Serbia and Montenegro, the opposition leaders asked for the release of the political prisoners. Speaking after the meeting, they warned that there will be no stability in the country until their demands are met. They consider the agreements to be related to foreign policy and not for the good of Kosovo. The leader of the Alliance for the Future of Kosovo, Ramush Haradinaj, also requested the cancellation of all concessions that might damage the country's interests. He said, "We want the agreements to be repealed. We will ask for a referendum if this is not done. If this does not happen, we will force early elections." After her meeting, President Yahyaga met with Prime Minister Isa Mustafa, with whom she discussed solutions to the political situation. Mustafa declared afterward that he is in favor of the president's initiative to resolve the political crisis in the country. He did not say whether there is any change in the relationship between the government and the opposition, but he reiterated his invitation to the opposition to come and hold dialogue with him. The Media Commission held a hearing today with the education syndicates, who expressed their concerns about the budget for the education system in 2016. The syndicates asked for an increase of teacher salaries, a promise that, according to them, was made during the electoral campaign. Their request was supported by the former Minister of Education, Mr. Tafaj, who suggested an increase of 5% for teachers. He said, "Prices in Albania have increased, and this has affected the salaries of everyone, including the teacher salaries. So the request to increase their salary by 5% is a realistic request. This means that an additional $11 million is needed in the Ministry of Education fund," said former Minister Tafaj. In a meeting called Albanian Women in Politics and Decision-Making, Prime Minister Rama emphasized that his government has worked hard to promote gender equality. However, he feels that there is still much work to be done in this regard. He said, "We must understand the value and the importance of increasing gender equality. I am convinced that the more women are involved in public life, the better things will go. Women are harder working than men. They find fewer excuses and do more work. Years ago, the situation was more concerning than it is today. We are not yet where we should be, but there has been progress," said Mr. Rama. The Vice Assembly Speaker, Valentina Leskai, emphasized the need for participation of women in order to build a country with higher living standards. "It is important to integrate women," she said, "not only in the labor market. If we want economic increase, we should put women in leading positions. European countries that have high living standards have a better ratio of women's representation," said Leskai. According to the findings published in the conference, over 3,000 women fell prey to domestic violence just in 2014. Thanks for joining us again today for our English News Edition. Have a great evening, and see you tomorrow at the same time.